Hello, it's Kathy Salisbury, the director of the Ambler Arboretum of Temple University. And today I'm just going to show you what Viburnum leaf beetle damage looks like. I just walked up the road and it's growing. Viburnums are growing all along the road around where I live. And so I'm in the southeastern Pennsylvania region. And right now I'm showing you the flowers and the leaves of Viburnum dentatum. This is arrowwood viburnum, and it is a native viburnum, which means that it's been here since before colonists came, and is part of our ecosystem, and it supports the wildlife and lives in conjunction with other plants that make up a plant community. And so we have this Viburnum dentatum here, and we know it's Viburnum dentatum, has this white cluster of small flowers. And then if we take a look at the leaves, it has no lobes on the leaves, so no big, large indentations like a maple leaf or something like that. And instead, it has these teeth, dentatum, dentate, like teeth. And so it has these very large serrations on the outside, on the leaf margin, the outside of the leaves. And if you look close, the veins look like they're pressed in to the leaf surface. So it kind of gives the leaf a puffy look. And so those are some ways to tell that this is Viburnum dentatum. This is a larger shrub, so the one I'm standing under is about my height, about 6 feet tall. And it can get that tall. These white flowers will be followed by berries. And this is available for sale in garden centers. You can often find cultivars and varieties of this plant for sale for landscapes. And so you can see here this twig. This is opposite leaf arrangement, which means that at each growing point, there's one leaf on either side of the stem, and that's important for identification as well. All viburnums have opposite leaves. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about Viburnum leaf beetle. Viburnum leaf beetle is an invasive insect that was introduced into this country and started out actually more north of us and then has been working its way down south. And Cornell University is doing a lot of research on the Viburnum leaf beetle. And they're looking for more information. So they're looking for the public to crowdsource information about where you're finding Viburnum leaf beetle, where you're seeing it, so they can track its progress and also its timing of when it hatches, when the eggs hatch, when it emerges, when it's an adult, when it's a larva. And that helps inform their recommendations for management of this problem pest. And so I just wanted to show you, first, what the viburnums look like, because if you're out walking around as we still maintain our social distancing and get out into nature for nature walks, you might be finding plants that you haven't really noticed before, and these are in bloom now. And so this is Viburnum dentatum. And if I take a look here at this branch, on this Viburnum dentatum, this is very characteristic Viburnum leaf beetle damage. And though I cannot find a larva on here, one of the problems with this that makes it so challenging is that the adults and the larva feed on the foliage of these shrubs, which means it's not just one time of the year that they're getting eaten, it's really all throughout the year they're getting eaten. And so that of course presents a huge problem for the shrubs. So you can see this is the damage. So the damage kind of starts out in between the leaf veins, but then it's irregular shaped holes. It's not regular holes, and it's not skeletonizing. So you can't see tiny little veins in between, or it doesn't look like lace really. Those are different kinds of insects. But the Viburnum leaf beetle makes these irregular holes throughout the leaves, and it'll be scattered around the plant. Typically towards the outer leaves, the youngest leaves, the newer leaves on the shrub. And that's because when this insect lays its eggs, it'll actually chew into the newest growth on the end of the twig. And I'm going to show you that here. So let's see here. Oops, sorry. So I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, there it is. So that rough spot that we can see on the twig there is last year's growth. And basically what these insects do is they kind of create these holes, shallow depressions really, in the twigs. And they use the material from the twig and they combine that with their frass or their waste. And lay an egg in the hole and then cover it up. And it leaves these scars on the ends of the twigs. And what's great to know about that is you can actually look for those deposits of eggs on the ends of twigs in the wintertime and just cut them off. And research has shown that that's been as effective as anything else in controlling this pest. So you can help prevent this problem. You can also help with research and gathering knowledge about this problem by letting Cornell University know what you're seeing and when you're seeing it. So if you're out on a walk and you notice it, you can report it. And so just like you can do a lot of the invasive insects that we see now. So this is Viburnum dentatum. Just going to show you another pretty flower of it. We do have other native viburnums, and we have Viburnum acerifolium, maple leaf viburnum, Viburnum prunifolium, which is black haw viburnum, that we can find growing in our woods. And they flower at a little bit different times, so and their leaves are different. So I will show you those as I go. But the Viburnum leaf beetle prefers some viburnums to other viburnums. It does seem to prefer this Viburnum dentatum, the arrowwood viburnum. It does seem to like that. Our other viburnum, which I will show you, Viburnum prunifolium, it doesn't seem to prefer. So I will show you that one next. All right, so here is a different viburnum. Notice the opposite stems again, but notice how different the leaves are. They're kind of more waxy, they're rounded, they don't have big serrations. They almost look like cherry leaves of a cherry tree. And that is actually where this one gets its name, its scientific name. But this is Viburnum prunifolium. So this is black haw viburnum. And you can see this one where Viburnum dentatum is flowering. Viburnum prunifolium was much earlier to flower in the spring. And so it's already setting its fruit where the flowers were, as you can see here. And this one gets much more tree-like. It grows in the same sort of habitat, this edge of the woodlands area and edge of the forest area, kind of shady. And you can buy this too at garden centers. But this one gets much more tree-like rather than shrub-like. So you can see in here, there's the trunk of this shrub. So these can get quite large. They can get 15, 18 feet tall easily. And the fruit is starting to set, and the fruit of all viburnums are important for wildlife and for bird species. But this one is not preferred by the Viburnum leaf beetle. For some reason, they tend to stay away from these particular species of viburnum. So one of the ways of managing pests in a landscape is using pest-resistant species. So rather than planting something that you know will be affected by an insect, maybe choose an option that is less likely to be affected by that insect. And so choosing Viburnum prunifolium over Viburnum dentatum might be a good option in this region, though we don't want to remove all the Viburnum dentatum, because I've been walking along this route, along the road, and seeing a lot of Viburnum dentatum that were not bothered at all. And so sometimes we notice that some plants exhibit resistance to pests, and we don't want to eliminate that from the genetic pool of plants in our area. So we don't want to not plant them, and we don't want to remove them. But if we're making choices in our landscapes, perhaps we'd be sure to include these options that are less likely to be bothered. And so I'm going to show you one more type of viburnum that could be confused with Viburnum dentatum and how to tell them apart. And the third viburnum I'd like to show you today is our maple leaf viburnum. So you can see it's flowering now. It flowered a little bit later, just emerging not too long ago, than Viburnum dentatum. And so Viburnum prunifolium, the black haw viburnum, blooms first, then the arrowwood viburnum, Viburnum dentatum, second. And this is our maple leaf viburnum. And you can see how it might be confused because it has these serrations on the sides of the leaves. But notice how the veins don't look like they're pressed into the leaves, so the leaves don't look nearly as wrinkly. And then also, if you notice here, the leaves have lobes on them. And so they look like a maple leaf, right? That's what we mean by lobes. And so they have 3 pointed lobes. And that's why it gets its name Viburnum acerifolium, or maple leaf viburnum, because it has these lobes on the leaves, so not Viburnum dentatum. I am happy to say that at least here in my yard, I have not found any Viburnum leaf beetle on the Viburnum acerifolium, the maple leaf viburnum. So it definitely seems that the Viburnum leaf beetle prefers the Viburnum dentatum. And so, those are some plants that you can look out for when you're on your nature walk, and you can just learn to identify them and appreciate them for their beauty and their support of a native ecosystem and the animals and plants and microorganisms and soils and everything that is part of that. But you can also help support science by doing some observations, recording them, and then sending them along to the people who are interested in that information so that they can learn more about insects, plants, diseases, and help to make recommendations for homeowners, nursery growers, and the general community about how to deal with these pests that we're encountering in the landscape. So thank you very much for joining us once again for a virtual Arboretum tour, and enjoy your exploring, and we cannot wait to see you back in the gardens sometime soon. Take good care.